Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. You're watching episode 53, the final episode of 2020 on Yield TV. All right, it's the end of the year. It's December 30th, 2020, and this will be our final episode. We're doing a special today, the best of DeFi 2020, powered by Zapper. I've got an awesome panel here of, I think, some of the biggest names in DeFi and really a lot of folks that I've gotten to know over the last year that I really respect. And I'm excited to kind of get their insights and reflections on the last year. So let me introduce everyone first, and then we can kick off. So in the center top, we have Suhail, who's one of our co-founders of Zapper. To the right of him is Seb, who is another co-founder of Zapper. Below Seb, we have Stani Kulechov, who is the founder of Aave. In the center bottom, we have Cami Russo, who is the founder of Defiant, or Defiant News. And then bottom left, we have Scott Lewis, who is the co-founder of DeFi Pulse and contributor to many other DeFi projects that we'll talk about today. So hi, everyone. Do you all want to say hi a moment or share any other exciting news?
Yeah, sure. I mean, hey, everyone. We just recently, we're really excited that we just passed the 1 billion on Zapper, so hooray. We actually did that milestone on Christmas Day, so yeah, just great timing there.
Awesome. Yeah, that was kind of nuts. We crossed that on Christmas Day of all days of the year. So yeah, 1 billion in total transaction volume. Guys, anyone else want to say hi quickly before we get started?
I guess I'll go. I'm Suhail. I'm one of the co-founders, as you've heard, of Zapper. I'm not seen on Yield TV or any TV too often, so I figured I'd make an appearance at least once.
You're the magic.
Just see how it goes.
Smart contracts, yeah. When you zap and you swap out one asset for another, and the gas is reduced to much less, you can thank Suhail for all of that. So Stani, you guys just launched V2. Anything else you wanted to share there? I know we're all looking forward to unsecured lending coming to Aave. It's available through the protocol, but it's not on the front end yet, right?
Yeah. So the version 2 had a lot of improvements because you can swap your collateral. So if you deposit something into Aave and you take a borrow, and instead of returning your loan, you can swap from one asset to another. But what's interesting also is the credit delegation feature that we implemented natively. So practically, it allows you to delegate your credit line to someone else, which means that you can create a trust relationship and have under collateralized loans. And this is something that we're going to work in the next year quite a lot. So practically creating networks where we could have this kind of like a delegations to vault to certain people and have social credit. So that's something we're looking forward to. And also we deployed version 2 of the governance itself. And it's pretty cool because not only you can delegate voting, which is pretty typical now in DeFi, but you can also delegate proposition power, which practically means that you could delegate proposition power to someone who is technical enough to put proposals on chain and either vote yourself on those proposals or delegate to, let's say, Scott or Camila or to DeFi that. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah. I coincidentally was talking to my wife about we want to buy a house in 2021, and I'm secretly determined to not take out a mortgage and to see if I can crowdfund it through Aave. So we'll see what happens, but she's getting impatient with me about this topic. So
I'm excited as well.
yeah. I'm gonna make it work. I just got to believe it'll happen. Cami, did you want to say hi a moment? Everyone knows the Defiant News. You started the Defiant in June 2019. Is that when it all kicked off?
Yeah, that's right. So hi everyone. Really happy to be here in this panel with people I really respect. I founded the Defiant. It started out as just a daily DeFi newsletter, June 2019. Scott was actually one of the first people I interviewed for the newsletter when I started kind of the weekly interviews. So yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride since then. I launched the podcast this year, the YouTube channel with Robin Schmidt. And also DeFi Dad's involvement in a lot of the script writing and producing, especially the DeFi 101 show, which I recommend everyone watch. Launched the website, so it's been really kind of building into what looks like more of a media company than just the newsletter that started. So yeah, really excited for next year. I have tons planned to keep building and growing the Defiant. I guess kind of the main change in the short term will be that I will no longer be the sole full-time person dedicated to the Defiant. I'm taking on a small full-time team, which they're coming on starting onboarding next week. So very excited for that. So yeah, hopefully you should see that reflected in coverage going forward.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've always thought of the Defiant as like the Vox of DeFi. It's just really high quality work you all do, and been proud to contribute to that. So the DeFi 101 series, everyone should check out. It just makes DeFi topics really simple in about 2-minute videos. Scott, did you want to say hi and get started?
Oh yeah, sure. Hey everybody. Yeah, I think like for me right now in the space, like meaning Ethereum and DeFi, we're kind of at this this like traction point with open organizations and DAOs, and it's been really, really exciting to be involved with them. And I think next year we're gonna really kind of learn whether like closed blockchain organizations can compete with open organizations, because we're going to see more things like getting to scale and starting to hire people, like open orgs and protocols hiring people. Like it's already happening now, but I think it's going to grow a lot. And then we'll see how they actually work. And it's kind of like one of those moments where like maybe we're just at the beginning of everything changing. And I think that's why like a lot of people are in this space in general. And so I don't know, I think it's a really fun time to be involved kind of everywhere.
Yeah, you are involved in a lot of different projects. I've learned so much from you over the past year. It's funny too, because I actually didn't know any of you a year ago, other than I had worked with Cami a few times through like ethereal events, but I mean, here we are a year later. So it's super excited to talk more. All right, cool. So let's kick off the Best of DeFi 2020. That's right. We got animations now. We're very sophisticated here. All right. So let's kick off with this question. I wanted to learn what do you all think was your favorite milestone for DeFi in 2020, and ideally a milestone from another team. Just because we're all very proud of our own teams. And I'll remind everyone that Zapper just passed 1 billion in transaction volume. So that's awesome. But beyond that, let's try to call out what else excited us this year. And maybe let's start with Cami. You want to kick off?
Oh, okay. So let's see. I thought it was really cool to see when Uniswap surpassed Coinbase Pro in trading volume, daily trading volume. That I think was really unexpected, starting at the start of the year. I remember DEX volume was just like pitiful in 2019. And this year it like really took off to the point of like really starting to make a small dent on centralized exchange volume. But the fact that Uniswap could kind of compete and overtake Coinbase was pretty remarkable, and I think it's kind of a sign of what's to come going forward. I think this is a trend that will continue. We'll continue to see DEXs taking market share from sexes.
Scott, you want to go next? I think a lot about the metric total value locked, and I think I wrote an article earlier in the year. Just not sure if I'm right or if I'm making up stories that conveniently back my reality, but I think that total value locked was one of like the major reasons that we started to get more attention in the mainstream. So curious to know, what's your favorite milestone in DeFi?
I mean, that definitely, like, going from like 1 billion to 10 billion total value locked, and then like also seeing like all of my internet friends basically spending either full time or 10 to 20 hours a week navigating the value they had locked was just like a completely, like, a transformational change. Like, if you're like thinking like 2018 or 2019, you're either building your thing or you're watching other people build their things and you're talking about it. But it kind of like switched to like, now everyone is like a participant in this digital economy rather than just building infrastructure for an economy we hope will exist. And I think like that like shift and the fact that that infrastructure kind of now exists, you're starting to see like people build like regular consumer goods, like collectible NFTs on top of it. And it's just kind of been like amazing to see it all come together like that.
Awesome. Seb, you want to go next? What's your favorite milestone in DeFi?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the 1 billion was huge, and Uniswap passing. So perhaps like not necessarily like a number milestone, but having a protocol hire a full-time team was kind of like a huge milestone. I think it was Yearn, I believe, was the first in the summer to really have full-time, employees, members dedicated to protocol. To me, that was a huge milestone, and probably going to be a trend we see more and more. We've seen more organizations go in that trend, and 2021, I believe, will have a lot more.
It's nuts. I think recently Empty Set hired Lewis. Is Lewis, like, I've never understood this. Is Lewis the founder of Empty Set Dollar, or a founder, or is he just a contributor?
He was an early contributor, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow, so cool. Didn't realize. So a non-founder that got hired as a DAO. Yeah, that's definitely become a standard that we can all expect. Stani, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the exciting things for me was what happened with the maybe not just the kind of like a sushi swap thing with Uniswap with the vampire attack, but kind of like what followed afterwards when Uniswap practically came up with a token, and there was like a period in DeFi and in the Ethereum ecosystem, 2018, mostly in 2019, like tokens wasn't a big thing back then, and there was this kind of like a anti-token narrative all the time, and then practically what happened is that Maker was very successful, and their token economics were very interesting, and it got a lot of attention, and governance tokens became important, and pretty much like we saw set of different kinds of governance tokens coming, and there was still kind of like a very hard narrative from Uniswap that they try to avoid having a governance or community token as much as they can, so that they can just build immutable code and focus on that. But what practically happened was the vampire attack from SushiSwap, and eventually that in one way questioned that should Uniswap community have a token that binds them together, and they can decide upon how the protocol is upgraded, developed further, and then against all expectations, they came up with a token. And for me, that was like a very big thing, because it really shows that even something like Uniswap, which is they have a lot of social capital involved, Hayden and their team, and also it's VC backed project, and the community being able to kind of like pressure them to have a token in not a bad way was something that's really showcased, the power of the community and how these things are, how the network effects are kind of like circulating. So that was quite interesting. And the second thing is that I would not expect having 500 Gwei gas, during this year, which was insane.
Yeah. That all caught us by surprise. I remember really being upset with SushiSwap because I felt like they were unfairly attacking Uniswap.
Yeah, exactly.
It was definitely like a marketing strategy. I don't know. Anyways, long story short, it's a few months later. You look back and you're like, they attracted all this liquidity. Uniswap ended up with more. I don't know if Uniswap already had a token plan, but they launched it, and it feels like everyone won. Like the pie grew that much more. And now I would argue too that SushiSwap's one of the most interesting projects and one of the most successful projects in 2020. So Suhail, you want to go last? What's your favorite milestone of 2020?
Okay, so you were talking about total value locked earlier. I checked before the call. I think January 1st, we were at 658 million.
Wow.
Today,
Crazy.
December 29th, we're at 15 billion. So thanks for that, Scott. I think actually that's a pretty big milestone. It's kind of cheating because it's actually all of DeFi. But the total value locked actually increased over this summer during the yield farming craze. And so I think my milestone is yield farming. That's, something completely new. It's novel. Well, I guess technically Synthetics had it with their Seth Eth pool previously. But, this is something now that's just, one of the pieces of the Lego in DeFi that projects are going to use to bootstrap liquidity. It allows them to rely less on institutions or, formally fundraising. They can bootstrap a lot easier. And so we can see like these kind of creative nascent projects popping up. Some of them will stick around, some of them won't. But I think that yield farming plays a pretty big role in, the success of some of these new tokens or new protocols. And it's been helpful for DeFi because, as we've seen, 15 billion in value locked as of today. So, I think that's a really cool feature of DeFi.
Yeah, I remember in January, just repeatedly checking DeFi Pulse. I would just keep refreshing. And then as we were approaching 1 billion, I mean, it's just like a euphoria. And it's such a small number now compared to where we're at. So like when you zoom out, you can imagine, I mean, I think we'll be at 100 billion by the end of 2021 and secretly, but not so secretly now that I'm saying it out loud, I think we'll be much higher than that. So let's move on to the next question. What was the most unexpected thing to happen in DeFi 2020? And I'll ask first, who would like to kick off with this? What is one of the biggest surprises or something you just never anticipated happening in 2020?
Yeah, I could.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, yeah, I would just say the rise of fair launch or community launch, and just sort of like out of nowhere, people are just deploying code and like solving this coordination game, without backers, like without actually needing any money, and then basically like just skipping like all of these stages that people normally have to fundraise through. And then you're like looking at like businesses or like protocols with like real cash flows, and like real volume, real users, and it's just like you just like did it with your friends over the internet, which is kind of crazy.
It is, yeah. All become a reality now, but it's I never imagined that either. Seb, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, just to bounce off of Suhail, I think definitely yield farming was something I did not expect in 2021. Kind of kickstarted with Compound, launching their token. I mean, being able to earn from lending and borrowing from Compound, and then basically creating a completely new market in DeFi, which was, yield aggregation protocols to kind of have this new blue ocean in DeFi, or you had new protocols like Yearn very quickly appear to, and Harvest to kind of really take opportunity from these new yield farming opportunities. So yeah, to me, that was something I really didn't expect. And like, I remember it being like used to call like liquidity mining, but very quickly the meme kind of caught on, and now it's just yield farming.
Yeah, I'm wondering, does anyone know who started that meme or who was one of the first to call it that, the yield farming meme? Because we called it liquidity mining with Synthetics, and Synthetics wasn't the first liquidity mining program, but they were pushing that idea hard in 2019. And for any of us that discovered that, I do remember thinking, this is such a crazy idea. Like, so I add liquidity, which actually strengthens Synthetics' value prop, and then I get paid for that. But then I probably will continue to add that liquidity, and maybe that even puts buying pressure on the token. And you start to realize what like symbiotic relationships are there when you stack different incentives from across different DeFi protocols. That was it. Synthetics plus Uniswap is like really the ultimate original liquidity mining program. But yeah, does anyone remember or know who, like, is anyone credited as coming up with the yield farming meme?
Like, I know it started basically when like balancer liquidity mining's like was sort of like a thing, but then like as compound liquidity mining became like when it was first launched and it was new, that's when it started. I know that I saw Robert Leshner doing it, and then I copycatted. But like I don't know if he copycatted or if it came from somewhere else. But yeah, it was like right at the first days of the compound.
I totally, yeah. The first few days I was flipping out, like, this is hilarious. This is what a great, like, fun way to frame up what we're doing and call it farming. And anyway, definitely one of my favorite memories of 2020.
Yeah, it's funny, on Zapper we used to have this section called liquidity mining with like a pickaxe, and like after a week we changed it to yield farming because everyone was like,
everyone did.
That's not how it's called.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? What is did I skip it here? Where did my question go? What's the most unexpected thing to happen in DeFi in 2020?
So I'll go. Oh, you want to go, Cami? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So one thing I've noticed is it's kind of funny is that I'm seeing a lot of or more people who are Bitcoin maximalists starting to get involved in DeFi. We've had some, more prominent Bitcoin maximalists use Zapper and let us know about it.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
I didn't.
So
those are conversations I haven't been privileged to, but that's good to hear.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, maybe it's because of the Ren bridge that was launched this year. It's a lot easier to move Bitcoin over. The concept of atomic swaps and cross-chain swaps have been a pipe dream for quite a while, and to see it pulled off with such success with Ren, but also of course we have Wrap Bitcoin, a bit more custodial, but still Bitcoin on Ethereum, and being able to throw that into DeFi and explore all of the different things you can do with it. Is really, for me, unexpected. I thought that would be quite a ways out still, but it's nice to see that it's materializing already.
Absolutely. Cami, you want to go next?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it's hard to kind of find something else because to me, like, it's very clear that yield farming was kind of the star of 2020. I guess like kind of from that, like expanding on that trend, I definitely didn't expect all the food mania, food wars coming from that. Like, who would have thought that like sushi and pickles and yams would have had such a kind of dominant spot at the center of DeFi this year. But I think it's become clear that beyond kind of all the like memes and like weird food names and everything, that this explosion of liquidity because of these token rewards just highlight how important incentives are in the construction of these protocols. And also, it really can help. It's a bit of like a marketing trick. I think it comes down to it, and it's not really new to DeFi. Like, I was trying to look for a story I wrote for Bloomberg like in 2018 about centralized exchanges doing something that I like, transaction mining. Do you guys remember that? There was like this phase where a bunch of like non-US centralized exchanges were using transaction mining to boost liquidity, and you would get like some weird, like, I don't know, Chinese exchange like jump to the top of CoinMarketCap one day, like F-Coin or whatever. I can't remember like the name, but whatever. So it's a tool that's been used for a while in crypto, and it was now used in DeFi. Token rewards and just incentives as a way to drive liquidity to protocols. But I think it's obvious that it can be effective. It sounds a little bit like a gimmick, but if that's kind of your tool that you're using to get people in the door, but if you have something that's valuable and useful, and people might come in for the rewards, but they stick around because they like your product. So it can be something that drives more kind of sustainable value to protocols. Though I would expect that for most of them, it's liquidity that comes and goes. But I think that's all fair game, and I think it's a really kind of useful tool to use. And I agree that in the end, like, it's really grown the pie, and whether that's because like all these food coins attractive people that didn't know about DeFi before, and got them looking at it. So yeah, definitely not expected, but I think it was a really good change. I think I have this anecdote which Sebastian Aldazaro, who's now at DeFi Pulse, he used to be a contributor for the Defiant, and he was tasked to write about the launch of Comp token. And so I remember like we had this conversation, like, hey, like, he was like, hey, do you think it'll be a big story? And I was like, well, I don't know, like, it's just a governance token, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, just like keep it to like 100 200 words or so. And then like, okay, like the day like of the launch, we saw it like explode. I was like, oh my god, no, like, you need to, like, this is gonna be the main story. So that was like very clearly, like, at least not expected from anyone I was talking to.
Yeah, I remember Cami over the summer, everyone that was writing in the Defiant, which was overwhelming at the time, just the banter back and forth amidst like maybe like, I don't know what, 10 or 15 of us was nuts, because it was like, people were volunteering to write about stuff that you had no idea if it was a scam or not. And then we slowly started to realize, all of us, that there was actually a lot of quality projects coming, even though there were a lot of what crap food tokens that were showing up. I think I just want to add to the fact that I think the fact that we were all at home was obviously one of the most unexpected things of just 2020. But the fact that DeFi grew and Ethereum clearly had its best year ever in terms of ecosystem growth, application adoption. I don't think it's a coincidence that we were all at home, and that I can't say the adoption is the result of everyone being more productive from being at home, but like, it had to have played a part. We're all here. Everyone's skipping the conferences. None of us are, traveling, and everyone's basically not even doing a commute anymore. And I think that was a wonderful, unexpected part of 2020. And to this day, I honestly feel somewhat guilty about it, because there's so much sadness that happened in 2020. But we as an industry had the best year ever. And I think 2021 is more promising. And I feel very grateful for that. I really, really think people should pay this forward and go donate to a charity, do whatever you gotta, but see if you can help someone, because we're having a good time. Stani, you want to go next? What's the most unexpected thing to happen in DeFi 2020?
Well, a lot of this I think was quite unexpected, and I mean I've been following this kind of like giving incentives for a longer period of time. I mean, Cami mentioned about the there was like one exchange, can't remember the name, ACC or something like that, and they had this kind of like a transaction mining or whatnot, and I would never expect like in DeFi it could go this scale that you can just print tokens and distribute them, and there's actually interesting like game mechanics there. There are people who are willing to risk capital to get and use and provide liquidity to get tokens, and then there are people who don't want to risk their whole capital, but they want to buy the exposure. So there's like game mechanics that actually work. So it's not completely like the same as printing fiat money. So it's very fascinating, and I was like definitely like amazed like how wide extended it got into. And besides that, I think one thing that got me what was very unexpected is the flash loans and practically how much consumptions there are in flash loans, but also like how in many hacks they're involved. And something like weird is that when you develop different kinds of protocols and smart contracts, you usually try to think in the way that like different kinds of like attack vectors that someone might have substantial amount of funds, but what flash loans did is that you could actually, if the way you calculate different kinds of references like prices, someone can just come and change those values and empty smart contracts with flash loans, and and there was a lot of attacks from there from flash loans. So that was very unexpected for me, and kind of like I don't know. Eventually, it made DeFi stronger in the sense that you have to build resilient stuff, but also it's at the same time very weird feeling. If you can just borrow for one transaction like huge amount of liquidity, and with Flash minting unlimited liquidity and do whatever you want. That was one of the things that kind of like stuck me.
Stani, I remember telling someone at Consensus who was on the like investments team when you guys had relaunched, I said, yeah, no, it's really cool. It's like another money market. But yeah, there's this thing about flash loans. I really don't get it. I don't really understand it, but it's nuts. If you can borrow millions of dollars for very little money as long as you return it by the end of a block being mined. And I was like explaining it like that. And I remember distinctly like pushing it off and just being like, whatever. And that, yeah, it ended up being one of those building blocks that as the year went on, the most powerful features that I was discovering in different applications were powered by flash loans. So I think at this point, I can say as an outsider, I don't have the I don't work at Aave, but I participate in the community. I see flash loans with you guys and other protocols, and those, when you can do a credit swap, a debt swap, you can use DeFi Saver and do some crazy stuff like creating like leverage positions and be able to repay it and automate all of that. Like those sorts of things are exciting. And we at Zapper are building our own ideas out to use things like flash loans. So we're excited to jump on board with that in 2021. Let's move on to the next question here. So let's talk about what is the project that you wish more discovered in 2020? And this could be more about like maybe a project that others should look forward to in 2021. And again, preferably not to name your own project, but we all love our projects, but you can name someone else. And who would want to go first?
I'll go ahead, I guess. This, I guess, is not so much a project as a type of vehicle, I guess. So I'm talking about the indices. So like PiDAO, DeFi Pulse Index, stuff like this, where people want exposure to, these blue chips. I think that these are really, really good intro opportunities for people who are just getting into DeFi and just kind of want a more set it and forget it type of approach. So, for example, the the DPI ETH pool, for example, tracks, both assets track fairly similarly. So there's like less risk of impermanent loss in this kind of thing. I mean, it's not eliminated, obviously, but you still maintain exposure to, a bunch of these different tokens, like Aave, for example, is one of them. And, I'm having people like my barber asking me about how do I get into, crypto? And, I don't want to tell them like, just go buy Bitcoin and hold it forever. Do something, interesting and novel and fun. Try out DeFi. And I think that these indices are a really good way to do that.
Very cool. Who wants to go next? I feel like this is a harder question. What project?
Yeah, I could go. Yeah, I mean, if it was like 2 months ago, I would have said like algorithmic stable coins. But it seems like most of DeFi has discovered it now. But one, I guess, industry would be like, I don't know exactly how to call it. I'd say probably like market segmentation or, reputation in DeFi. So not necessarily like being able to identify people, but be able to basically create baskets of DeFi users and target them in some way. We've seen some projects like, Badger target users through their airdrops. And I think that that'll probably be a bigger industry where you're able to target a segment of DeFi based on the actions they took in the past. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, newer DeFi projects that are kind of tackling this problem in this industry. And I think it's going to be something much bigger in 2021.
Very cool. Very cool. Who wants to go next?
I don't know. It feels like everything. Oh, sorry, Aave. Oh, sorry, Stani. You want to go?
No. Oh, no. That's
I'm not Aave decentralized.
No, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat. In a lot of the stuff that I thought was undiscovered is now like very discovered, maybe too much so in some situations. I think there's some really like interesting stuff happening in like the DeFi enabled NFT space. Simon De La R just dropped like a new project like Neolastics that sort of like takes like the generative collectible series idea and then like makes the bonding curve sort of be like the primary, it's like person to contract exchange. And so I think those types of model, that type of model maybe we're finally in a place where like the total addressable market's big enough for people to build like both like fun, like consumptive things, but I think also there'll be more of that like as that works its way into DeFi and those types of mechanisms. And I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a project where what you can mint pieces of art, but then it all like relates back to the bonding curve you were mentioning. That we should have them on Yield TV or have Simon on sometime. I don't fully understand it, but the pieces of it I do. And I think just in general, NFT art has become so much more mainstream in our community.
Yeah, like imagine you could just like pay to generate a new CryptoPunk, and then the price went up. And then like if you didn't like it, you could just kind of like burn it and kind of like sell it back to like the AMM bonding.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's fun. It's a fun idea.
Really cool. Did anyone else want to comment on that? Did I hear someone else?
I could say something about one thing is always like been interesting, like how to get more like creators and makers and people just involved in the DeFi space without that very heavy, kind of like algorithmic development background. And it would be nice to see like more no code tools, where you can create your different kinds of strategies and combine them and then let others to consume as well. And I think Furo Combo is one of the projects that has been doing it for a while, and they've been continuing on that path. And it's a very long road to kind of win, in the sense that there is a lot of stuff that you have to do, and because obviously smart contracts is technical, but then you have to make them this composability available to non-technical people and still have the security aspect there. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of things I really like to push forward, just for the sake that we can get more innovators into the space and build different kinds of combinations you can do and share with the rest of the community, and somehow monetize it, or create a community around this kind of things. And I really like the idea what Scott also said about NFTs and monikers, and creating this kind of like an ecosystem. So that's something I'm looking for.
There we go.
Yeah, to me, I think I wanted to kind of say something related to what Scott and Stani were saying. Just I would love to see more people discover how Web3 and crypto can be leveraged in non kind of crypto specific areas. Like we've seen a little bit of that with tokenized access Discord channels with these tools to airdrop tokens to like Twitter followers, or to people retweeting something, just like rewarding social engagement. We've seen a little bit of this with like social tokens, and with projects like Audet kind of airdropping tokens on their users. So I'm really interested to see how these kind of non-crypto projects can leverage Web3 tools to reward their users and increase engagement. And I think this year we saw kind of the first pieces of that infrastructure starting to be built. Like airdrops and just like tokenized access to Discord or to like a newsletter. I think those are kind of the first pieces in place. I think next year we'll start to see that space grow and have like more developed in infrastructure, so that people outside of crypto can start leveraging these tools as well. So yeah, really interested in this kind of intersection of like social platforms and Web3.
Very cool. Yeah. It feels like it's all merging together, and that's cool, because I think at the start of the year, there's a number of incredible NFT enthusiast communities or communities of creators who are using NFTs. And I think we all talked about it like it was separate, and now we're all realizing, well, like they can benefit from the DeFi money Legos, and DeFi money Legos benefit from NFTs, and throw in social tokens into all of that as well. I've got two more questions for all of you. The first one I think is a little bit easier. I want to talk about who or what was most wrong in terms of assumptions about DeFi in 2020. So like, for example, I could give Jimmy Song. He's been incredibly wrong about everything. Or Tor, whatever his name is, Turr, it looks like turd. He's been wrong about everything for many years as well. Each of them has claimed that, that Ethereum would never see real adoption of applications. And I think that they're being proved wrong every day. Anyways, we can talk about folks or talk about maybe just ideas, assumptions that were clearly wrong about DeFi in 2020. And I'll let whoever wants to go first call it out.
I think that it's been mentioned before, but the idea that tokens that all tokens are trash, and that tokens don't have a place in Ethereum anymore, and just like conflating kind of the ICO mania with any project that launched a token. I think that idea has kind of isn't the consensus any longer. And yeah, teams are proving that if they have kind of the foundations for it, and if the token is actually kind of being used in a well thought out way, that they can provide actual value. And I think kind of the model is still being developed, but to me the main value of tokens is becoming like they're becoming a vehicle to provide ownership to kind of the broader community. And I think that's kind of become the norm. So I think it was like very clear with Uniswap and SushiSwap. Like Uniswap didn't have a token, and it was like praised so much because it didn't have a token. But then SushiSwap came along with a token, mined, vampire mined whatever the liquidity, and was able to deliver value to its users through the sushi token. So I think that's like a great example of how tokens can actually be useful and valuable. And like for protocols that don't have it, I think that it's become an expectation of users of open source protocols that they should have it, because they will demand as much value as possible from the protocol that they're using. So yeah, it's kind of like a way to disintermediate the kind of revenue, or to get like a part of the revenue of the protocol. So the idea that tokens are worthless is basically gone at the moment, and they're becoming to be a requirement.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I personally years ago never dreamed that token powered systems would get adopted the way they have this year. I was someone who really was like, I just can't see it. Like I know how I use a token to trade with value, or to store value, to transfer value, whatever. But it was really difficult for me to see it working. And now I want too many tokens. So anyways, who wants to go next?
I can go. Actually, I think I was very wrong about NFTs. I think last year, I really didn't understand, why the hell, I would buy an NFT, or,
Yeah.
And this year I started really, just getting really much more interested in seeing the use case for it. There's artists that I really like. And I think for a lot of people, NFTs, once you haven't really engaged with them or engaged with the artist or like bought a piece, it's very hard to understand. But once you actually do it, it kind of really just changes your framework around it. And, the moment that I bought something, or like my first NFT, I was like, okay, I get it now. And I can see the future where, having digital ownership and rewarding artists is very important. So yeah, I was definitely very wrong about NFTs.
Totally. We've all been there. Yeah. What a big year for NFTs, and digital art, especially. We've had a few on lately, like John, the founder of Super Rare. We had Matthew from Send. If you're into the metaverse, or you are at least interested, digital art is an easy gateway into the NFT world. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Oh, I want to know who Scott.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too.
I got a list.
I mean, I don't want to name names on video. It's Twitter only, which is a select individuals are allowed to follow me. But I would say the idea, there's like this persistent idea for maybe like people that had never been financial practitioners, and maybe some that had, but maybe not like that senior traders ever. And it's sort of this idea that like AMMs were just a toy, and that like AMMs could only compete so long as there wasn't like a traditional order book on a blockchain. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen like AMMs are just like destroying the field right now. And this like tidal wave of people like switching to like traditional order book systems hasn't happened. Yeah. And that's like pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting why it's happened so far. I don't think the entire future's been written yet on what will be the dominant model, but at least like that initial idea that AMMs aren't like going to win at all is just like verifiably wrong at this point.
Absolutely. Who wants to go next?
I can. Oh,
After you.
sorry. There's some lag. The connection is all the way to Finland here. So, but I was very, very surprised about wrapped BTC and the amount it existed this year in DeFi. So practically, I couldn't imagine how much it could be at this point, or even like beginning of the year. I mean, Bitcoiners usually are kind of like, it's a separate breed and animal in one way. It's very difficult to explain a Bitcoiner, what's happening in DeFi, and there will be quite quickly, I mean, you just need to hold something, and in Ethereum you have a lot of interaction, and the beauty of DeFi is there's this composability. There's many things you can do, and when you have wrapped value in Ethereum, you can just move around and do different kinds of things and get yields. And for me, it was very surprising like how much the WBTC grew over the year, and that is a bit unexpected for me. I kind of understood that kind of maybe the right way is that people will go out of Bitcoin and enter into the Ethereum, into the DeFi ecosystem, and they have much more power, and then they kind of like they're also involved in the Ethereum community by holding, let's say, Ethereum and supporting the ecosystem. So for me, it was very surprising that there's kind of like a big segment of people that are actually they're holding Bitcoin, but they want to do something with it, and they want interoperability. So that was very excited for me, and also like it was surprising that it was removed from the DeFi pulse, which for me was the right decision, but it was kind of like
wait, we gave them their own page. Well, yeah.
Well, it's a wrapped. I mean,
yeah. Well, when they started, they wanted to be a DAO, and for DeFi pulse, it was like, okay, I mean, this is early. People are like transitioning to decentralization, but they found a winning formula and doing great. And so, just sort of like, we might have to add Tether and USDC if we kept them on there forever. So, but anyway, we gave them their own page in the sun, which they're dominating.
I didn't even know that, Scott. If you go to DeFiPulse.com, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, so wrapped Bitcoin used to be on the list that everyone looks at for total value locked. But now it has its own page for BTC at work. It's at the top there, which is really interesting. This is cool. You've got like all the different forms of tokenized Bitcoin to check out there. So be sure to look at that. And that currently it shows there's 139,919 Bitcoin that's been tokenized on Ethereum. So really, and that is, boy, how much is that in US dollars? That is, holy cow. It's right under 4 billion. I didn't realize that it was like 3 billion.
We were racing to get the Bitcoin at work page shipped before we had a completely centralized project as the #1 ranked on DeFi Pulse. But we got it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Suhail, you were going to go. Who or what do you think was proven most wrong in DeFi in 2020?
So I'm sure you've heard of Blockstream before. Famous. There's a fellow there named Samson Mao. He's their CSO.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of Ethereum is just, hacks and failures enriching, the few insiders while everyone else suffers. And, I guess there could be that perception when we see things like these food tokens or these food protocols launching, like Cami was saying, pickle finance, which, is maybe reasonable, but maybe if you have something like, I don't know, Starfish Finance or, some random project launching. And we saw with when Wi-Fi launched, or YFI, all of the forks that spewed off of that So I guess that there's this perception that it's like this madhouse or this craziness going on, but this is actually more of a feature than a bug. It's experimentation. It's taking like a great protocol like Wi-Fi and trying to build on top of it, trying to make improvements and to iterate on top of it. And outsiders may look at this and think like, oh, like they're so crappy at making projects that they're constantly forking them and iterating them. But that's not the case. It's experimentation and it's still very nascent. So we're trying to figure out, what the best way of doing these things are. But if you're not involved in DeFi every day and you're not, keeping up with all the forks and all this stuff going on, then it looks like a total mess from the outside, and it's, I guess, understandable. But they're still wrong. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. A lot of experimentation.
One weird thing like that I've just discovered recently. There was a fork of Wi-Fi called YFV, and it was just like when it came out, it was just kind of like, what is this, right? And they did have a big like Oracle flash loan bug a while back, but like just recently, not as like a holder community member, I've been using what was their fork of like the Uniswap app, for like pooling and like trading. It's actually like a way better user experience and like pool management than like the regular Uniswap app. And I think it's just kind of cool. Like, yeah, some things do start off as like hacked together fork, but like, I think they're focusing on the UX of like that page in a way that maybe Uniswap is more focused on like V3 and not looking to iterate V2 tooling. And then they've actually come up with like some like really good ideas about how to manage like LPs make them easier for the users. But I don't know, it's kind of cool to watch all the experimentation play out in different ways.
I think a lesson that I've learned over the past year, and I feel kind of lucky that I don't think I had this problem, but I tend to let projects play out until they prove themselves like untrustworthy. That doesn't mean I put money into those projects always, but I've tried to reserve judgment until someone truly does something that's verifiably wrong, or just prove that they're incompetent. And like you said, there's a lot of projects that launched that I don't think any of us ever dreamed would grow to where they're at. I know one of those for me was Hedgic. Hedgic went through quite a bit of turmoil, got a lot of scrutiny in the spring, and then like continued to build. And they've been really successful and have a vibrant community. So, anyways, final question. Let's talk about what are your predictions for 2021. So who wants to go first on this? You can name a single prediction, or if you've got a whole list, feel free to rattle them off.
I think open orgs will put payroll pressure on traditional startup structures because they'll be paying people more money, and there'll be a bid for talent that'll like challenge traditional setups.
Interesting. Are you trying to say, Scott, then that we would see more talent attracted to DeFi because of the way that you can get paid, not just like even the amount, but just like, for example, Sablier, like if you can get paid predictably?
No, not like the actual payment rails, more just I think like if you had like a traditional DeFi protocol, they have a pot of money from VCs or wherever they got their money, and they spend it on payroll, right? And the token holders don't really contribute to that payroll, right? And so you have like a bunch of people kind of like hodling, and then like the protocol being built by the community, and also like maybe an org that was funded from some other place. But if you have like a protocol, kind of the entire market capitalization of the token can decide how much of our market capitalization do we want to spend on talent. And I think we're going to find that number is just like cutting out a middle person. And I think we're going to find that number is higher like the more sovereign the token holders are over the protocol.
Interesting. Who wants to go next? What predictions do we have for 2020?
Yeah,
I got an easy one here for you, Seb. Over 100 billion in total value locked. I could see 500 billion, but easy to throw that out. I sound like Mike Novogratz circa 2017 saying numbers, but yeah, it's easy to do. Anyway, Seb, what were you going to say?
I really think we'll see more and more experimentation on how to distribute tokens to users. So in 2020 with yield farming, we saw the first iteration on how to do a token distribution. So like the first iteration is kind of fine. You're rewarding your users based on their usage, but what we've seen is it's very easy to exploit, and you have basically users that are just rent seeking and moving from one protocol to the next. So I think we'll see an evolution where the token distribution is tied more towards a legit usage of the platform, not necessarily just using it for a financial gain. Whether that's going to be through moving more off-chain stuff on-chain. So whether you visit the website and you're able to get tokens, or some other sort of metric you could leverage to distribute tokens. I think we'll see much more of that. We're already starting to see volume mining, shield mining, and a bunch of different things. But I think more refining overall around how do you leverage the most out of a token distributed to a user.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I think there will be wrapped dollars. So that's my prediction.
Yeah,
I think there will be, and it will be.
I think RenVM actually already supports that.
Maybe.
Flag planted.
I have an easy prediction.
Oh no, go ahead, Cami. No, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious that we'll see different flavors of derivatives of staked ETH. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how ETH2 or like staking in ETH2 becomes a part of DeFi, and how these ETH2 or like staked ETH derivatives start interacting with DeFi protocols. Looking forward to kind of the different money Legos that will be built for that. So I think that's pretty much to be expected. We've already seen kind of the initial steps of that with I think Coinbase trading ETH2 tokens or allowing trading of ETH2 tokens. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Very interesting point there. Just I remember seeing the cream staking option for Ether, which does have centralized controls there. But I think like if you were to put in like an ETH, you were getting like 1.12, and I just was like, wow, like I mean these are awesome premiums if you can afford to keep your Ether in there, and if you trust the service that you're participating in. And yeah, will be really, really interesting to see. I think it basically plays off. I think what you're saying, Cami, plays off of what I never saw coming with YUSD and Y Curve LP tokens, just how capital efficient all of these tokens would become. And then the fact that like that's where it really became clear to me in 2020, like, wow, like, I mean, you can just do IOUs for IOUs for IOUs. And if everyone values it, if there's liquidity, I mean, Jesus, this is incredible. I like, this is a, a whole new world where like, you have liquid markets for stuff that you never imagined would be able to be priced by the market, especially in these early days. Suhail, were you the last one to go here?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we've seen recently with Ripple that some regulators are actually starting to look at the space with much more scrutiny. So perhaps we're going to see some more increased some regulators looking more into DeFi, and as a result, I think that we're going to see more anonymous teams as well, just to try to thwart this regulation. And perhaps some more Chads out there who will happen across repos with tokens perfectly ready to launch and ready to go that are not associated with the team at all. Another aspect I think is institutional investors coming into the space. MetaMask is currently working on a wallet designed specifically for those investors, with a bunch of built-in features, lending, pooling, and all that kind of stuff. So they're actually targeting these institutions to bring money into DeFi. Another aspect I think that's exciting is layer 2 scaling solutions. We've seen recently with the huge gas price surges. That's one great solution, which is layer 2. Previously we had 500 Gwei gas prices, but actually today it's more expensive to send a transaction because of the price of ETH. So even though it's only 100 Gwei, it's still more expensive, right? So I think layer 2 solutions will be able to handle some of this. There's still ways to go with that. So probably late 2021, maybe 2022. Although, I'm not super familiar with what these guys are working on with layer 2. Internally. What else? I guess ETH 2.0, of course, which recently is the buzz and is kicking up some excitement as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how scaling moves forward in 2021. I think that usage is only going to increase as more people are attracted to it. Money attracts money, of course. And with MetaMask and Consensus trying to get these institutions on board, I think that we're really going to need some of these scaling solutions sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I could see in 2021 it could get that much better unexpectedly because of layer 2 solutions, that we'll see that much more building and adoption, and we'll all say, wow, can't believe like we're no longer paying 100 Gwei on average. I also too, I think like my worry is that it could actually be worse, that we could repeat that cycle going back up to 500, 1,000 Gwei, which really prices people out of being able to participate. But I think like I have no doubt long term, like, in the next few years, like things will be that much better. Like what we lived through this year will be a funny story to tell, and it'll be like a badge of honor that you lived through 500 to 1,000 Gwei days. So anyways, guys, anything else you want to share before we close out? Any other predictions, thoughts, ideas? Anything best of DeFi 2020?
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What is it? Stani, what time is it in Finland?
Oh, it's a bit past 9 in the evening, so I guess I will be maybe the first one celebrating, or is someone in Asia? Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate getting to talk with all of you. This was super fun. Would love to have all of you back. This was great because we've actually had Scott and Stani on previously, and we had a blast. And Cami, keep up the incredible work you do at the Defiant. Like we all look to the Defiant as like a beacon of real journalism in our space. And Seb and Suhail, I'll talk to you on Slack in a few minutes. And guys, if you do hang out for a moment, I'm just gonna hit the end broadcast button, and that'll really be it. So if you have any other questions or you just want to hang out, happy to talk here. So everyone, we'll be back next week on Monday with our first episode of 2020. I believe we're going to do a DeFi 101 type lesson. There's a chance we might do options with the new Open V2. I think there's a lot to learn there about using options in DeFi, even if you've never used them previously. And we'll be trying to do that every week through 2021. We'll be trying to do DeFi fundamental lessons on Mondays, and then Wednesdays we'll continue the interview format, and Friday we'll be introducing a new segment called the Week in DeFi. So that'll be really fun. Other than that, thanks so much for tuning in, and everyone stay safe. Have an awesome 2021. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.